Sup guys, how we doing? And welcome back to another episode. So today I have Jack Sterry with me. So thanks so much for coming on, Jack. If you'd like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry.
Obviously, my name's Jack. I've been training myself since I was about 16, training properly since I was about 18, and I went to uni. The four lads I lived with in uni, they were all a lot bigger than me, and it's that was my initial motivation. And I kind of messed around with machines and all that kind of thing, but these boys helped me do training properly how it should be. Since 18, all through uni, been training, and then in September, finally decided to become a PT. Initially, whilst I was away travelling, there was an opportunity to become a PT out there. The only reason I didn't was because I needed another year on my visa. But then I came back, got another job in marketing, which is what my degree was, but then decided that it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a personal trainer and be in that industry and environment from now on.
So how have you found it since September being in the industry? Like, how's the first, because what we're in now, February, so kind of say like 6 months. How have you found the first kind of 6 months in the industry so far?
So when I first started in September, I was still in my full-time job. I was doing PT in the evenings and the mornings as well. So at that time, I felt really busy because I was doing two jobs. Absolutely loved it. Obviously, I was working from 5 in the morning till occasionally 9 at night. But it didn't. Not at one point did I go, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. It was more of a case of let's get this full-time job out of the way, finish that, and then jump in. 6 months have been good. Obviously, I'm still naively thought I was going to be busier by now, but I guess it's still a case of like building up my reputation, still figuring out the market where I am, because there's a few different facilities and stuff like that, a few different options for people. So I figured out the last couple of months I need to be a bit more broad with what I can offer rather than just like the standard weight loss or strength gain things. You need to offer a bit more than that. But yeah, first 6 months I think have gone really well, and I'm just looking forward to building on it. So it can only go up.
No, exactly, mate, and fair play for you for being honest and saying, you expected perhaps to have a few more clients and stuff, because at the end of the day, like the first 6 months, I personally feel isn't necessarily about how many clients you have. It's finding your niche and finding exactly where you want to be as a personal trainer. And from my experience, so I think that's fantastic in terms of that's the way you want to go. And like I said, it's going to slowly build up, and then you know exactly what sort of target audience to hit. And like you said, you don't want to be like a standard PT. You want to find something that's going to make you stand out from the rest, which is fantastic to hear. So talk to me a little bit about you and you played rugby. How did you find the transition from rugby into personal training? Have you brought any skills from rugby or?
So initially, I've always been skinny as. I started playing senior rugby when I was 17. I think I weighed about 70 kilos at that point when I made my debut, and quickly realised I was going to be the whipping boy if I didn't put on some size quite quickly. So initially it was all about just getting bigger. I didn't really think about like performance. It was more just let's just put some size on my arms so I can actually fill the shirts. And then when I was about 20, 21 maybe, I realised that I'm never ever going to be like 100 kilos and massive. It's better for me to look at the performance side of it and more on the power. And I've just found that since I made that change, that was just what I love training. So like now I'm doing more Olympic lifting and things like that. But I think there's a bit of there seems to be two blocks. There seems to be your standard kind of training in the gym, like more of a bodybuilding one, and then you come across to the functional side of it. There seems to be a massive split in the middle. I kind of want to be in the middle of both of those because I like doing both of them. There's people like Obi Vincent, who is now promoting doing both. Steve Cook started it like last year, promoting that kind of bodybuilding with a performance aspect. So that's kind of what I've brought in from rugby. Is obviously you need your size, but then there's so much more you can do in terms of your power and your speed and things like that. And they really mix it up for clients. If you just go with a client and all you're doing is machines and just dumbbell work, like standard stuff, I find it can be easy for them to get bored. Whereas if you start bringing in more functional stuff where they've got to learn a move and learning something, I tend to, that's what I brought over anyway, just kind of keeping it functional, keeping it interesting rather than just the same stuff every week or so.
And that's cool, because from where I am as a personal trainer, in terms of what I do is perhaps more bodybuilding. I have a handful of clients that kind of in that, but it's nowhere in between kind of bodybuilding and functional performance. It's completely different to that. It's more kind of weight loss and just a lifestyle change. But I think it's very, very interesting learning from people like yourself that are into that kind of functional performance training, because that's something that is very cool, very like easy in the eye, very probably quite challenging to master as well. So you've got a lot of weeks to kind of actually get used to it, and it's quite a cool skill to teach. So for that being like your niche and everything is fantastic. Did you do any of that style training with rugby? Was that quite a frequent thing?
So when I think it's probably 3 years ago, there was a CrossFit gym opened up in my town, so I started doing that. The issue I found was because CrossFit is so dominant on shoulders, I was training doing that, but then going and playing rugby on a Saturday, and just as soon as I make a tackle, my shoulders are going, and my right was constantly having issues, so I stopped doing CrossFit flat out and just went back to doing it every now and again, kind of when I felt okay. So yeah, I was doing it flat out for a bit, but now I'm kind of managing it so that I can still perform when I need to. So doing more shoulders at the start of the week and doing way more mobility than I ever was.
Okay, cool. And you find that works for you. So do you still play rugby, or do you?
Yeah, occasionally, yeah. Not as full on as I should be because I'm focusing on getting clients in the evening and stuff. I can't train, so at the moment I'm focused on this rather than doing rugby, but eventually it'll move back to being, and I'll have my evenings free to go and train again.
Cool. In terms of going back to sort of personal training, so I think you're fantastic to have on the podcast, because obviously you've just reached your kind of 6-month periods. In terms of developing your skills as a personal trainer, and I spoke about this on the last podcast, that qualifications don't mean shit, experience and everything does. So what have you kind of learned this first 6 months, like, and how have you kind of developed your skills? Like, where do you go to, not necessarily qualification wise, but where do you go to kind of improve who you are as a personal trainer?
So obviously the qualifications, having freshly done them myself, it is a lot of, it's the basic stuff, but there's some of the stuff that they recommend you doing with clients and things like that, it just doesn't work. It's just not practical. So what I did at the start, and what I still do occasionally now, is I'll shadow the PTs that are around me, just to pick up their kind of like how they are with clients, just to kind of see their relationship, how they do things, just to see if there's anything that I can bring into it. But then B, coaching tips. So one of the trainers at my one facility, Daisy, she's really good with training women in particular. So I've shadowed her a couple of times and asked her to show me how to coach certain movements, especially glute focused ones, because it's something that I haven't really trained glutes myself, but obviously a lot of women there, they want to be able to train glutes. So going to Daisy herself and specifically asking, can you show me this movement, and how you coach it, has allowed, it just gives me more weapons in my arsenal to give to people rather than just glute bridges. So it's kind of just developing myself by asking for help, because there's no shame in asking people. Just if you're in a situation that isn't comfortable and is new to you, which a lot of it has been, just asking people like, what would you do here, and what would you do with this one? How can you improve this weight loss? Do I need to be doing more nutrition stuff? Just things like that, and making sure you're asking the right people, like people who have got results, people who have been doing it for a while, rather than just messaging people off Instagram who look like they know what they're talking about, but they might not.
Fine line.
So, yeah, which there are a few.
Yeah, I think you're spot on in terms of asking people. Like, you can ask someone, like you said, the person Daisy that has had the experience of training females, other clients. Going to someone very knowledgeable, very on top of the game is fantastic. I think Instagram, like you said, spot on. Depends who you ask. So you can't go to, I always talk about like Big Steve or Big Ben, who has the biggest muscles, or like a woman has the biggest glutes. Doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're talking about. So you've got to be very specific on who you're going to, and I think you're spot on like that. You're not just taking knowledge left, right and centre, because I think that's one thing when you become a personal trainer, especially in my gym. I was open to learning like all the time. I just wanted to learn how to be the best personal trainer possible. But you've got so many different people saying like you should do this or you should do that, and it's not necessarily true. So you just got to find the right people to learn from. Which, in terms of like what you do for your functional performance, do you look at YouTube videos? Do you go on Instagram? Is there someone that you look up to?
So I'm training. Again, I'm lucky enough that the people around me, they're all CrossFit level 1 qualified. They've all been kind of Olympic lifting and functional bodybuilding for a while. So I asked them for my own training. But then in terms of finding new exercises and having those explained, there's one account in particular, functional bodybuilding, on Instagram. The content they produce is not just videos of them working out. Is really well produced and put together, and they explain each movement, what it benefits, what it targets, and things like that. So I use them a lot. I do it myself, see how it works, see where I need to improve before I bring it into other people. But that account in particular is highly knowledgeable. The content is good, well produced. It's not just shot on a phone and uploaded like a lot of mine is. It's I feel like I know I can trust that account rather than some booty builder guy coming in from someone on there.
And I think it's spot on in terms of what you're saying is applying it to yourself. So if that's the style of training that you undertake, you've basically got this knowledge from a knowledgeable source. You've applied it to yourself. You've worked out to see if it's good enough to pass on to your clients. And that's what I find sometimes in the industry. Like you'll see on Instagram or you'll see on YouTube like fancy arm workouts or fancy exercise to your glutes, and it's only because it looks like Instagrammable, and like that's not necessarily going to get you the results that you're after. So I could never go up to like one of my clients and get them to do an exercise or any kind of exercise that I haven't known and I don't know that produces results. I can't just pull something on Instagram and be like, let's just try this. Like there's no kind of knowledge behind it. So which leads me on nicely again to celebrity influencers. So at the moment, my Instagram and everything, how I talk about celebrity influencers, the reason I get so frustrated with them is purely because I personally feel that people like ourselves, that we spend a lot of money and a lot of time on a qualification to be in a career that we love and enjoy, and you've got people like that will happily take a few thousand to promote a 1-minute video that a lot of people will take on board. They'll see it, they'll buy the products, they'll probably be more disappointed at the end of it. And that's why I get so frustrated. So what are your thoughts on celebrity influencers, and how do you think they've impacted the industry?
So I think you've got kind of two distinct groups. You've got the influencers that will promote the crap, so Boom Bod and things like that, ex-Geordie Shore, ex-Valleys, those kind of people, as well, who... People like James Smith have been outing them now for the last 6 months, so people are starting to cotton on. But they're always going to have like a fan base that will just believe whatever they want. Unfortunately, it is getting better. There was an article out yesterday about how someone from the NHS has suggested that these kind of adverts are banned, which they need to be, because they just don't work, and they've got way too much power. They can, I don't know how many followers Katie Price has got, but it's in the millions, I'm pretty sure. So, and if you added up all of the people that promoted them, they're probably looking at 25 to 30 million people that they can push this product to. So from Boombod, it's a great bit of marketing, but the product itself is shit. And then the other set of influencers are people, not all of them, but some of them. So like people that Gymshark built their social media based on how they look, their aesthetic look, and nothing else. So prime example, you look at Steve Cook for one, compared to I'm going to probably pronounce the name wrong. Is it Chrissy Sela? So Steve Cook, obviously one of the, if not the biggest influencer, but he has got the qualifications, he's got the knowledge, so he knows what he's talking about. So when he does guides and all of his fitness culture stuff, you know that what he's providing is backed by science, backed by actual training methods. Whereas if you look at someone like Chrissy, who she literally has built her following based on like how she looks. She's blessed with good genetics, but she doesn't have, I don't think she's got any, if she does, I apologize, but I don't think she's got any qualifications and stuff. So it's like, if she's selling a guide about, I think it's a booty guide, which most of them do sell, and then Steve Cook's selling a guide, they're going to be a completely different quality, but people are still going to pay the same price for one, but just because of just because of how many followers they've got. And I think the amount of booty guides that are out there, they must all be exactly the same, apart from different pictures. So again, influencer, they've impacted it. I think they've impacted it positively, because they are an inspiration for a lot of people to get up and get moving. But it's when they start to monetize it with crap that it becomes an issue. So if you're an influencer that has kind of got the knowledge, you've got the research, and you can back it up with good training programs, and happy days, make money from it. But if you're literally just selling booty guides or crappy diet plans just because you've got the following and people will buy it, then that's when the issue comes in.
Yeah, and surely that's going to run out eventually. Well, you'd like to think so, but like you said, spot on, there's all different types of people. I think it's different if like you're an influencer, especially more like, not necessarily like proper Gymshark athletes, but more like slightly small time influencers, where if it fits in, if like a clothing brand, or anything that kind of fits in with like who you are, I get that completely. I think somebody like the Kardashians, for example, if I get up on my phone here, I think I worked this out the other day, like for example, Kim Kardashian, mad, 126 million followers. So for example, let's go with the like 10% like algorithm. So she would put a post up of saying her drinking a shake, which I'm pretty sure was part of that article that was by like a top NHS doctor, what you were saying earlier. So say for example 10%, 12.5 million people see her post. Let's say another 10% are like interested in purchasing it. That's, oh god, maths here. Like over a million, so like 1.2 million or something, that might purchase that product, which is crazy. Like, it's so scary to think that people can have that much power and hit that many people. We always talk about Facebook, and if you do a sponsored ad of how many people you can reach, you got to think these people can target like millions of people, which is very, very scary. And I think, and that's why I'm trying to, like, when I talk about celebrity influencers onto my social media, it's purely not to, take the piss, or it is to an extent to
take the piss to get it seen, because it's an important message. Yeah,
exactly. But the most important part is, hang on, no, don't do this. Like, take a step back, look at it here this way and that way. But like you said with the Steve Cook, I'm not entirely sure who that Chrissy person is. Yeah, get your phone. But in terms of Steve Cook, again, he's built a massive following. He's one of the OGs, so he'll have so much content that, ignoring this year or last year, 5-6 years ago, he was producing content, all fitness, on everything. So he's got that background. Who's this? Chrissy?
Chrissy, that one there.
Oh, okay. I've never come across who that is.
So she's, I'm pretty sure she's Gymshark, obviously women's best. They're all women's best. She's got 1.3 mil, and she released an app, I think last month, the Tone and Sculpt app. So using the athlete app program that they all seem to use. So again, it's obviously aimed at women. They all generally are those kind of guys. They're all tend to be aimed at women, and it's just I haven't got the guide itself, but I've just seen results, and it's just all about glutes, and that's it. So
you haven't downloaded it yourself, no?
No. Any more glutes, I
might. But yeah, no, it's like you said, how many boot guides can you get? I think it's a good way if you're like it's a really like fine line, because I think if you're doing it in the right way and you're trying to help as many people as possible and you have a positive influence, but if you're using your following just to be a sellout, say they charge 20-30 quid for a program, they're getting thousands of people buy it. It's so wrong, and the industry is like people like yourself and people that I've come across, want to change people's lives for the better. Different niches, like you're completely different to how I am as a personal trainer. But then you just have people like this that they're not going to have any content. They're not going to be any benefit to anyone other than say just do this exercise, do that exercise, which you can learn elsewhere. So yeah, very frustrating. Ran over. So in terms of yourself, mate, and your personal training career, where do you see yourself in the next kind of, I hate these kind of questions, but where do you see yourself in the next kind of 6 months? So once you've hit that year mark, where do you see yourself?
So 6 months wise, like my target is for 1-to-1 is to have 5 a day. That's my initial target. Mm-hmm. Is 25 throughout the week, but 5 a day. Along the classes that I'm doing, I think I'm doing about six classes, but then I want to kind of bring in more functional stuff. So I want to do a weightlifting seminar so I can add that and be more confident in coaching people that, and then obviously in 6 months time, alongside building up that client base as well, I want to build up my online coaching as well, because I think that's where it's going, and I think it's just more affordable for a lot of people. If it's done right. So, if like you do with check-ins and videos and stuff like that, if it's done right, it can be affordable for a lot more people to do than 1-to-1 sessions. And you can reach more people, which is always great. Especially where I am, I don't live in like a big city or anything like that. So having the ability to reach more people, it's just going to be, selfishly, it will be more beneficial for my business to be able to reach more people, which is just how it's going to be.
Yeah, that sounds wicked, mate. And like you said, with your style of training, it'll be fantastic 1-to-1 in that aspect. There's so much for someone to learn, but then having that opportunity to then go into online coaching, whereas, hang on, I don't want to pay, once or twice a week for a certain amount of weeks. I'd much rather do online coaching with yourself, and I think, like you said, that's a service that I think it would be fantastic for yourself, and that's something that I've put in a lot the last sort of 3, 4, 5 months to really increase. But like you said, like you've got to get that sort of baseline, that foundation first. And it seems like with your classes, how do you do your classes? Is that multiple people or?
So again, depends on the facility. So my one facility is more kind of bodyweight classes, so literally just a 30 or 45-minute blast, just to get the heart rate up, get people sweating and stuff like that. And then in my other facility, it's more technique, more functional stuff, basically CrossFit classes, but we can't call it a CrossFit class because we're not affiliated. So it's more just functional fitness, that kind of thing. So you do your Olympic lifting at the start, or your main strength component, then you do some accessories and skill work, and then you do like a blast at the end, just to get heart rate up and sweating, which I think it provides people with more like benefit from each session, because they come in, they learn something, or they continue to learn on a skill, and then they have their blast at the end just to improve their fitness.
Cool. And what do you prefer? Well, not necessarily prefer, but what I can't really word this properly. But in terms of it, your 1-to-1 and classes, I know you're dealing with more people, but do they differ in any other way in terms of what you're doing?
So yeah, the classes. So the first lot of classes of bodyweight stuff, that's all just in a class. But then the functional classes is something that I've picked up this last month or so. That's kind of how I want to structure a 1-to-1. Is we based on each client's goals. So if I've got a client that wants to learn how to do a press up. So like that first 15-minute block, we'll do specific accessory work around the press up. Then we'll go into more broader stuff. We'll go and train, and then we'll finish off with a cardio blast. So that kind of setup of the session is what I picked up from classes, and that's what I'm going to try and work with now to see if that kind of fits better with what people expect.
That's cool, man. And in terms of do you say you go to more than one gym?
Yeah, so I've got one that I started at in a place called Chepstow, which is about 15 minutes away, and then I've got one around the corner that I started at last month, which is about 5 minutes away. But I'm good friends with the owner of that one. I've known him for like 5 years. So
are they different kind of gyms or similar facilities?
Yeah, so the one 15 minutes away is like standard gym. So you've got your machines, cardio machines, all that kind of stuff, spin area, as you'd expect. But then my friend's gym is literally in his family's old converted barn. So he's converted it. It's effectively a CrossFit gym. So loads of racks, loads of barbells, loads of dumbbells, but no machines. So yeah, different facilities, different kind of training methods, which is for me good because I'm picking up 2 or 3 different styles, and I'm learning how to do both of them.
Yeah, and like I said, like you probably know, there's no point me really saying this, but the first 6 months, a year, just learning so much, like in that first year period is so vital to who you're going to become as a personal trainer, because you'll look back on this in 6 months, a year's time, and you'll be like, shit, like I said all these things and now I'm the personal trainer that I said I was going to be, which, and again, that's why I wanted you on. I only knew you from Instagram, like most of the people that come on the podcast, but that's why exactly I wanted you on here, because you're a very focused guy. You seem to know exactly where you want to go, and in such a short space of time, you've already come such a long way. So as like one personal trainer to another, mate, you've done fantastically well, and the goals that you've set are 100% achievable, and hopefully in 6 months' time, a year's time, you have a sick kind of online coaching service running, which would be really good to see.
Yeah, I'll come back on and talk about it.
Yeah. In terms of social media, where can people find you? Is it Instagram or?
So Instagram is jsterry _fitness, and then Jack Sterry PT on Facebook.
Okay, cool. So if anyone wants to follow Jack and who he is as a personal trainer, as functional performance, drop him a follow and like his Facebook page. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate that. Apologies to anyone if we went a little bit too much on the rant on the celebrity influencers, but we could done much longer.
If offended someone, it's fine.
But yeah, thank you so much, mate, and hopefully catch up soon.
No worries, mate. Cheers for having me.